Every feeling you didn't know had a name. Explained. Kenopsia. Think about a school hallway on a Saturday. Lights still on, lockers lining the walls, everything exactly where it's supposed to be, except the people. Or a stadium an hour after the game ended. Cups on the floor, the scoreboard still lit. It was built for tens of thousands of people, and right now, it holds none. There's something unsettling about that. Not scary exactly, just weird in a quiet way. That feeling has a name, Kenopsia, the eerie atmosphere of a place that's usually full of people but isn't right now. What makes it different from just being in an empty room is that you can feel what's missing, because you know what it's supposed to look like. The noise, the movement, the energy, the absence becomes its own presence. People feel it in old social media profiles that haven't been updated in years, in a childhood bedroom after everyone's grown and moved out. The structure is perfectly intact. The life that filled it isn't. Sonder. You're sitting in traffic. The car next to you has someone in it. A completely random person, tapping their fingers on the wheel, staring ahead, somewhere else in their mind. And for just a second, it lands. That person has a whole life, a childhood with specific memories, a set of fears they've probably never said out loud, people they'd do anything for, a story just as long and as complicated as yours, and you're going to drive away and never know any of it. That's Sonder. The moment you realize that every person around you is living a life as full and real as your own. It sounds obvious, but there's a difference between knowing that intellectually and actually feeling it in your chest. It tends to hit hardest in crowded places, train stations, airports where thousands of completely separate lives pass through the same space. Your brain tries to process the scale of that and quietly steps back. Not everything is meant to be fully grasped. Some things are just meant to be felt for a moment and then let go. Anemoia. You find an old photo album, streets from the 1970s, people in clothes that don't exist anymore, smiling at a camera like it's just another Tuesday. And you feel a pull, a longing for that time, that pace, that particular quality of light, which is strange, because you weren't there. There's nothing to actually miss, and yet the feeling is real. That's anemoia, nostalgia for a time you never lived. It shows up when you watch old home videos with washed-out colors, when you hear a song from a decade before you were born and it feels strangely familiar. Old media only preserved the good stuff. The photos that survived were the ones worth keeping. What you're seeing is a highlight reel filtered through an aesthetic that now reads as warm and simple. You're not longing for what that era actually was. You're longing for what it looks like from here. Limerence. You've had maybe 3 real conversations with this person, and yet your brain has already dedicated an embarrassing amount of time to them. You replay things they said. You notice how long it takes them to reply and you read into it. You're not choosing to think about them this much. It's just happening, on a loop your conscious mind didn't agree to. That's limerence, the involuntary consuming fixation that comes with early attraction. What separates it from just liking someone is how little control you have over it. Because the thing limerence is actually chasing isn't the person, it's the answer. Do they feel this too? That uncertainty is the engine. Every small thing they do becomes a data point, and the moment the answer arrives, either way, the feeling dissolves surprisingly fast, which tells you something important about what it actually was. It was never really about them, it was about the not knowing. Chrysalism. There's a specific kind of peace that only exists when it's pouring rain outside and you have nowhere to be. Not just rain, properly pouring, loud enough to hear against the windows, and you're inside, warm, with nothing urgent pulling at you. The outside world becomes unreachable in a way that feels like permission. Permission to stay exactly where you are, to not answer anything, not deal with anything, just exist. That's Chrysalism. Named after the chrysalis, the casing a butterfly lives inside before it emerges. It's the feeling of being sealed off from the world in a way that feels protective rather than isolating. The storm outside isn't just background noise, it's part of the feeling. Your brain registers the contrast and relaxes because of it. That's why some people crack a window just to hear the rain better. They're not letting the outside in, they're sharpening the boundary. And somehow that gap between the two is one of the most comforting places you can be. Monachopsis. You're at a gathering. Nothing is technically wrong. People are talking and you're participating, smiling at the right moments, contributing to conversations. From the outside, you look fine. But underneath, there's a low, constant hum. A feeling that you're slightly off from everyone else in the room. Not unwelcome, just not quite calibrated to the frequency everyone else seems to be on. That's monachopsis, the subtle, persistent feeling of being out of place. What separates it from shyness is that it doesn't go away once you relax. It's something quieter and more stubborn, a sense that no matter how well the conversation flows, there's a small permanent gap between you and the room. People who feel this regularly tend to carry a quiet belief that somewhere there's a room they'd walk into and it would just work. Some people find it, a place, a group, a single person, where the gap just closes. Others spend a lifetime wondering if they will. Vellichor. There's something about a used bookshop that doesn't exist anywhere else. It's not just the smell, it's the objects themselves. Every book has already had a life before it ended up here. Someone bought it, maybe read it cover to cover, underlined something on page 47 that meant something to them at the time. And then, for whatever reason, it got let go. And now it's here, waiting. Vellichor is the word for that feeling. The quiet, bittersweet atmosphere of places filled with objects that used to belong to someone's life and now don't. There's a melancholy to it, but it's not heavy. It's more like a soft reminder that time moves, things change hands, and tucked inside every secondhand object is a small history you'll never fully know. Hiraeth. You probably know what nostalgia feels like. That warm, slightly aching pull toward the past. But there's a version that goes deeper. It's not just missing the past. It's missing a specific version of your life that no longer exists. And the cruel part is that even if the place still exists, even if you could drive there right now, what you're actually missing wouldn't be there. In Welsh, this is called Hiraeth, a longing for home, except the home you're longing for can't be returned to, or maybe never quite existed the way you remember it. People feel it for a childhood neighborhood after it changes, for the early stage of a relationship that has long since shifted. There's a grief to Hiraeth that's hard to justify because nothing bad necessarily happened. Things just moved on. Time moved forward. The feeling didn't. Mauerbauertraurigkeit. Someone reaches out to you, a friend who genuinely likes you, hasn't done anything wrong, just wants to spend time with you, and something in you closes. You make an excuse, put it off, and then you're alone, which is technically what you chose, but it doesn't feel like relief. Mauerbauertraurigkeit. It's a German word that translates roughly to the sadness of a wall builder. The urge to push people away even when you don't actually want to be alone. What makes it different from needing space is how involuntary it feels. It's less like a decision and more like a reflex. Something pulls back before you've even thought it through. And then the loneliness that follows has a particular quality because you can't really complain about it. You're the one who built the wall. And somehow that makes the empty room feel even quieter. Occhiolism. Sometimes, usually when you're tired or staring at the sky too long, it hits you. How small your slice of the world actually is. One set of eyes, one lifetime of experiences, one specific place you grew up, one language you think in, and all of that, every opinion, every instinct, every certainty is built on that one narrow slice. That's Occhiolism. The awareness that your view of the world is not the world. It's just your version of it, filtered through everything that happened to you specifically. Most people find this uncomfortable because it doesn't just apply to the big debates. It applies to everything. How you read people, what you find funny, what feels normal. All of it shaped by a perspective no one else shares exactly. The unsettling part isn't that your view is limited. It's that everyone thinks they're the exception, the one whose view is actually accurate. Onism. You are going to live one life. One body, one timeline. One sequence of days that goes in a single direction. Every choice you make is also a choice not to make 100 others. Every city you live in is a city you picked over dozens you didn't. Every path you take quietly closes off the ones running parallel to it. That's Onism. The frustration of being stuck in just one life. The awareness that by simply being here, living this version, you are missing every other version that was technically available to you. It tends to surface when you read about a place you'll probably never visit, or meet someone whose life opened up in a completely different direction. And you feel the gap. Not with envy, just with a quiet awareness of everything this one life can't hold. The internet has made this sharper. Every corner of human experience is one scroll away, which is remarkable. And also a constant reminder of every door you didn't walk through. The Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows. Most of these words come from the same place. A book called The Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows by John Koenig, a genuinely original work built on the idea that the feelings we can't name are often the ones that matter most. If any of these landed, it's worth reading. Because here's the thing, these emotions existed long before the words did. People have been feeling Sonder and Hiraeth and Onism for as long as there have been people. The words didn't create the feelings, they just finally gave them somewhere to live. Which of these hit home? Now that you have the words, you'll start noticing the feelings everywhere.